Okay, this year I actually doubled the number of books that I read in comparison to the year before, and I'm going to tell you in this video exactly how I did it. So I like to consider myself a reader. I enjoy reading. It makes me feel intelligent. It makes me feel like I have things to talk about with friends and family. It just makes me feel like a smarter person in general. And it's just a fun hobby. I like to do it before I go to bed at night. But last year was my worst reading year by far. When I got to December, I realized I had only read 10 books for the entire year, which is a very low number for me. So I committed to reading 10 books in the month of December last year, and I did it thanks to some short books and a lot of audiobooks and some other books that were just easier reads. I did it. I made it happen. But this year, I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted to make reading more a part of my everyday life again, and I wanted to really feel like I was gaining some ground in the reading world. So this is how I did it. The first thing that I did was I decided to read even just a little bit every single day. I mean, I didn't care if it was 2 pages or 5 minutes. Sometimes it was 2 minutes. It didn't matter how much. It just mattered that I did it. It was just establishing that habit that I'm a reader. I read every single day. It doesn't matter how much I read, because you know what? All of those little 2-minute snacks of reading that I had and 2 pages that I would do just to make sure that it counted really added up over time. I doubled my reading goal from last year. I read 40 books this past year, which isn't like an astronomical high number compared to people on, different reading podcasts and whatever, but it was a good number for me. It's the best number that I've ever had, and I feel like it's solid, and I'm very happy with that. So I was able to do that, hit that 40 book goal, just because I made sure that I was doing it every single day. And so part of that is committing to it, but also I created a streak for myself. I didn't want that streak to break. And a huge part of that was actually thanks to my Kindle, because my Kindle actually keeps track of it. I can go into my little app and I can look at all of my different stats of how many days I've been reading in a row, and there's a little blue line that continues through the calendar. And if I break that little blue line, which happened this past year on Oscar Sunday, I don't like it. It's really frustrating for me. And maybe it's because I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, or because I have, competitiveness as one of my strengths on the Strengths Finder. I don't know. I am competitive, even if it's just with myself and there is no actual prize. I don't want that streak to break. That's a huge motivator for me. And so if I am just trying to do a little bit every day, doesn't matter how much, and I'm trying to maintain that streak, I get some stuff done. Like this year, my reading life was really proof of that. I also was able to choose from a huge library of books for my Kindle, because over the years, I have amassed a ridiculous number of Kindle books from the Modern Mrs. Darcy ebook deals email. I don't know if any of you have checked this out yet, but every day she sends you what's on sale for like $2 or $3, and you're like, it's just $2 or $3. And before you know it, you have 100 books on your Kindle that you spent $2 or $3 on each. So I've got quite the library on here for me to be able to pick from. But also, when I hear about books that I'm interested in, the first place I go is my Libby app that's connected to my local library. And it actually allows me to download the ebook onto my Kindle. So I don't have to read it on my phone or my iPad or whatever. I can read it right on my Kindle, and it counts towards that list, even though it's not a book that I own. Kindle keeps track of it and says, oh, you read a Kindle book. It's more of those stats and like competitiveness that I like. So the Libby app has been another great way for me to access a lot of books. Now, I know not everybody loves a Kindle or an e-reader. A lot of people like the feel of paper. For me, it's the efficiency, it's the getting stuff done. I love that this is small enough, I can slip it right in my purse. I pretty much never leave home without my Kindle. And even if I accidentally do, I've got my book on my phone so I can read wherever I'm at. And I just take those little snatches of time wherever I get them. If I'm waiting for my kids at ballet or going to pick somebody up from school early or whatever, I read. I try to make that the priority over getting on Instagram or something. Like maybe I won't let myself get on Instagram until I've read 2 minutes of my book. But I also make sure that every single night I end my night with fiction. It helps me to wind down and get my brain to calm down and think about something other than my stressful life. And so I just really like ending my day with fiction. So finding those little pieces of time that I'm purposefully going to read during the day, like knowing when you're going to do it, I think is a huge part of also maintaining that streak. Because you can say all you want, I'm going to do this every single day, but until you know exactly when that's going to happen, it makes it a lot harder to actually follow through on it. Okay, I'm going to mention something else that I know, kind of like the whole debate of paper versus digital, not everybody loves, but I personally adore, and that's Goodreads. So there is so much satisfaction in just upping the percentage of the book that you've read on Goodreads, checking it off. And then because I create a Goodreads reading challenge every year, it keeps track of all the books that I've read all year long. And at the end of the year, it puts together this beautiful little summary of everything that I've read. And it gives me all of my reading stats, the longest book I've read and the shortest book I've read, and like all of the things. And it's all pretty and it has the book covers on it and it keeps track of all my notes. And I love Goodreads. Not so much for the rating the books factor and like the social experience of it, but just for my own way of recording my reading. I really love Goodreads, and it helps me to really keep track of everything that I'm reading. And again, it syncs with my Kindle, so automatically when I finish an ebook, it tallies in Goodreads that that book is done. So there's just some cool things about using technology that helps you to keep track of your reading better. And I find the more I keep track of it, the more I see how much progress I'm making, which then encourages me to make even more progress. Before we get to my last two tips though, if you don't know who I am, I wanted to tell you I am MacKenzie Koppa. I'm a podcaster and voiceover actor, and I do this YouTube thing helping other moms and women and people figure out how to plan their lives better, how to enjoy their lives better, how to feel healthy. We do a lot of health things and that sort of thing. And I also have a podcast called Live Well Anyway. So you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. You can also go to MacKenzieKoppa.com, and I have all kinds of resources there as well. Okay, my last two tips for being successful in your reading this next year are, first of all, don't be afraid to abandon books. Books that you're just really not driving with and they're not getting you sucked in and you feel like you have to slog through it and it's actually making you averse to reading, just go ahead and let it go. You do not have to keep reading that book. There are no rules. You are not in school. You are doing this for your own enjoyment. So read things that you want to read. I don't care if it's goofy fiction. I don't care if it's something, some tome that you want to read. Whatever it is, just make sure that you're actually enjoying it because it's really not worth it if you're not. Okay, my final tip is audiobooks count. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a voice actor and I read audiobooks for a living. I am telling you they actually count because you're consuming all of the same content that you would be if you were reading the book with your very own eyes. It's the same thing. You're just able to multitask a little bit easier. And you can set that puppy to be read to you at 2 or 3 times the speed if you can handle it. My kids come in and they're like, Mom, is that an auctioneer? They're totally dissuaded by it, but I like to get through things quickly. I like to be efficient. So I usually set my speed at like 1.6, sometimes 1.7, depending on the reader. Also, if you're going to consume a celebrity memoir, you had best do that in the celebrity's voice. Whoever would actually read their book is just crazy to me because I can actually hear Minnie Driver tell me her story, or Colin Jost, or Trevor Noah. I want to hear it from them because they are performers. It is what they do, and they are very good at it. So not only do you get the experience of reading a really good book, but you hear it performed in such an amazing way and from the author's own voice. It's a game changer. And you have so many different options for getting audiobooks. Again, I use Libby and Hoopla to get audiobooks from my library. That's the first place I go to. That's the first place I check to make sure that they have it. If they don't, then I turn to Audible, and that's where I have a subscription and I get to pick out 1 book a month. I really enjoy it. They have sales all throughout the year, so sometimes I'm able to pick up a couple of books for just 1 credit. And I love knowing that I can access pretty much any book out there. And I've been able to consume so many nonfiction books. Typically, I read my fiction and I listen to a lot more nonfiction. And of course, the celebrity memoirs. So I like to consume those while I'm doing other things. And then if I want to, sometimes I will get the nonfiction audiobook and then also the hard copy, not the ebook, but the actual hard copy of nonfiction. So if it's a book that I'm really wanting to consume the content and use the content and make notes and that sort of thing, I can go back and annotate it and make notes throughout the actual hard copy book, because I'm a visual person and that just helps me to be able to get the content into my brain. But otherwise, if it's a little bit lighter fare, or I can just kind of take or leave some things, then I just listen to the nonfiction audiobook and I get a lot of learning done that way. So those are the ways that I read 40 books this year. I was able to double my reading from the year before, and hopefully some of these things will help you too. I would love to hear in the comments if you have a tip that I didn't mention today, a way that you up your reading goal for the entire year. Please let me know. I would love to chat with you about it. I love the community of people that I have here, so much so that we have a Live Well Anyway Facebook group. Live Well Anyway is the name of my podcast, as I mentioned earlier. So if you come over and you go to facebook.com/groups/Live Well Anyway, you can get in that group for free. I've got some free Trello templates for planning and all that kind of thing. I sometimes come over and do lives in there. We have a whole community of ladies over there who are talking about planning and health stuff and reading and all of the rest. And then we also have an inside circle of ladies who really get down to business with our planning, and it is our Patreon group. So if you go to patreon.com/livewelltogether, that is where I do lives 4 days a week for those ladies. We've all gotten to know each other so well. We chat, we have different challenges throughout the year for different things we're doing with our health and our planning and all the rest. It is such a fun community, and I am able to get a lot more FaceTime with all of you. Again, I do lives in there 4 days a week. It is so much fun, so you should come and join us for as low as $5 a month if that is something that you would like to be a part of. So again, go to patreon.com/livewelltogether. All right, let me know what you thought in the comments below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.